Hello and welcome to the Run the Day podcast. I'm your host, Nick Symmonds. With me as always is Kamala.
Hello.
How you doing, Cam?
I'm doing great.
What a wild week this has been.
A wild week. Spring's here.
I know, I love it. And how many episodes have we got? We got almost 30 episodes up now.
Yeah, we're up there.
We got some reviews coming in.
Yeah, we got some reviews. And today on the review, we have Brooke Craven. She said, Nick, host of the Run the Day podcast, highlights all aspects of fitness, nutrition, and more in this Can't Miss podcast. The host and expert guests offer insightful advice and information that's helpful to anyone that listens. We love hearing from you guys and just your thoughts on the podcast. We want to hear more on who you want to have come on the podcast. So shoot us an email, podcast@rungum.com, with who you want to see next.
Brooke, thank you so much for that awesome review.
Yeah.
Please leave reviews. That's what we try to do here on the Run the Day podcast. We aim to inspire, educate, inform. And today's guest is someone who does just that. It's Jessica Turner. She is a super mom.
Wow.
Yeah. What'd you think, Cam?
To the T. Just so inspired by her and all the avenues that she has and how she, I don't want to say the word balance because I know she doesn't,
Yeah.
but how she thrives in all those areas.
Yeah.
And I think what I was so inspired by is, you know, she says, I put on my oxygen mask before I put on the other person. She's taking care of herself so that she can thrive in all those areas.
If you want to talk time management, if you want to talk energy management, this is the podcast for you.
Yep.
Let's dig into it. Here it is, Jessica Turner. All right, here she is from Nashville, Tennessee. It's Jessica Turner. Jessica, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me today.
How's Nashville today?
It is dreary today.
Oh, no.
We get a lot of rain here. I know that you are in the Pacific Northwest, but let me tell you, there's a lot of rain in Nashville.
Well, I've been there a couple times. It is very green.
It is very, very green. We're expecting like 7 inches of rain this week. So
It's too much.
yeah, it's just too much mud, too much, kind of spring weather, even though we're not quite to spring yet.
Yeah. Every once in a while, the sun peaks out here and we get excited. But
Yeah.
do you travel a lot? You're so busy. You have so much going on. You must be on the road a bit.
I am on the road a bit. And I tell you, speaking is my favorite thing of all the different hats that I wear. I love speaking at events and conferences and for companies. So I am on the road a bit. And I really, really love that part of my work.
That's so awesome. So I want to go back in time. I mean, we're going to jump into all the different facets of your life. You know, the author, the blogging, you're a mom, you're a wife. There's so much that you've got going on. But I want to know what early life was like. You said you moved to Nashville in 2004, I believe. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Wisconsin.
Wow. What part of Wisconsin?
I grew up in Oshkosh, like
I know
Oshkosh Bagosh.
Yeah.
Just south of Green Bay. And then I went to Madison for school. And after 4 years of 30 below trudging in the snow across campus, I was done. And I moved to Nashville 3 weeks later.
Oh, wow. What was it like growing up in Wisconsin other than the snow?
It was great. I had a fantastic childhood and grew up in a community of 50,000 people and kind of felt like we knew everybody. And I just had a really great childhood.
You ever go to the fly-in by chance in Oshkosh?
Yeah, sure did. My sister and I, we used to track all of the license plates because we would see cars from virtually all 50 states come in for that big EAA fly-in.
Very famous in Oshkosh. I'm working to get my private pilot's license. My dream is to one day fly into Oshkosh. So I just had to ask you about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a really special time. It's in July every year. So
and people there are just so friendly. I love Wisconsin. I actually lived in Minnesota for a while, and everybody up in that neck of the woods, they're just so friendly.
Yeah, really good salt of the earth people.
What took you to Nashville by chance? I mean, of all the places you could have gone to escape the winters, why Nashville?
Yeah. So, and it's before Nashville was really kind of the it city that it is now. I was looking to work in marketing and publicity in the music industry. So this is where you want to come for that. And that combined with the fact that I met my now husband in 2003 and he lived here in Nashville. 2 really good reasons, a career and a future spouse took me to Nashville.
That tends to move people around the country from time to time. But you love it, you said.
Yeah, we do. We really love the South. And, we kind of get like 3.5 seasons. We'll get maybe snow, and it's a great place to raise a family. We've got 3 kids. They're 10, 7, and 4. And I have a full-time day job doing corporate marketing and strategic communications on social media for a big healthcare company here. And it's really the healthcare epicenter of America. So it's a great place for a job like that. And my husband writes books full-time and takes care of, running the kids to soccer practice and that sort of thing. So it's been a really good fit for our family.
One of the reasons I was so excited to chat with you today is that you and your husband fit in that demographic that is my all-time favorite, most inspirational demographic, and that is working moms and dads. I am so inspired by the lives that you live. I don't have children myself yet, and I feel like there's never enough hours in the day, and somehow you find time in the fringe hours, which we'll dig into here in a minute, but you find time for yourself and your family and your work and everything else you've got going on. How do you balance it all?
So I really don't like the word balance because I don't think there really is such a thing as balance. I don't balance it all, but I really do pursue having satisfaction in all the different areas of my life. So work and parenting and my own personal self-care. And I think when you're looking at it through the lens of, am I satisfied in these different areas, you don't kind of get caught in the trap of comparing yourself of how other people are quote unquote doing it all, because you just can't. So I'm really comfortable with good enough is good enough. I'm really comfortable that there's typically a laundry basket sitting in my hallway
and that's
by my
okay.
kitchen, and that's okay. Like in the scheme of things, I'd much rather. Last night, my oldest 2 kids sat in bed with me and we started the Hardy Boys series and we read for a half an hour. And, that was so much more important than cleaning up the dishes in the kitchen. I left those for the morning and took care of them this morning. So I think it's about figuring out what really matters to you and zeroing in on those priorities and being comfortable with good enough for the rest of those things.
And I think too often high achieving, high striving individuals, they want everything to be perfect, right? And it's easy to get hard on yourself when you see the dishes in the sink or you see the basket of clothes. Is there have you always been okay with, because you're obviously a very high achieving person, have you always been okay with kind of letting some of the minutiae slip away, or is it more you had to learn that with age and practice and having 3 children?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of both. Certainly when I first got married and kind of wanted to have this perfect home and do things the way I saw my mom doing them, I put a lot more stress on myself. But once we started having kids and my career was flourishing and then my online career was flourishing as well, I realized that some things had to give and take. And I didn't want to give up on the things that mattered most to me, which were the relationships in my life and about taking care of myself. And so the thing that I had to be flexible with, it was the home management kind of stuff and the work stuff, honestly. Like, listen, there's always going to be more email. You're never going to get to the bottom of your inbox. And so it is okay if you shut that computer at 5 o'clock and say, you know what, I'm done with this for the day. I can get back to it tomorrow. And so that's just something that the more I've leaned into that type of philosophy and have seen the fruit from that, the easier it's been for me to let go of those stressors that other people have. Nobody is coming in and doing a evaluation of how clean my kitchen is at night. I'm the only one who sees it. So I don't need to be stressed about it. If it doesn't bother me, then it doesn't need to bother anybody else.
Well, we talk a lot about, and I know this is something that you really focus on, is about self-care. And by being a better, more healthy, well-rested version of yourself, you're a better mom and a better wife and a better employee. Talk about self-care. Talk about the book that you released back in 2015, The Fringe Hours, Making Time for You, and how you do that, how you take care of yourself first so that you can succeed in all your other duties.
Right. I really subscribe to that oxygen mask philosophy that you've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you can take care of everyone around you.
I love that.
And, it's an overused analogy, but it works really, really well in terms of understanding that priority of self-care, that you've got to be taking care of yourselves first, because eventually it might not happen right away, but eventually you're going to burn out and you're not going to be the best version of yourself. And I really want to model that for my children, looking at it through the mom perspective, that by taking care of myself, I'm a better mom, and that they're going to grow up having seen a mom who took care of herself. And they're going to recognize that as normal and healthy and behavior that they're going to hopefully adopt in their own lives. So I prioritize sleep. I prioritize exercise. I prioritize, my passion projects, because I know that when I'm really leaning into those things and doing those things well, I'm able to do everything else better.
I love that. That's so great. Be a little bit selfish so you can be selfless at other times. I just think that's so great. What are the fringe hours for you? I know my fringe hours are like 4 a.m. and people think I'm a crazy person for getting up at 4 a.m. But tell me what your fringe hours are.
Yeah, so the fringe hours are those pockets of time that often go underused or wasted. I'm really harnessing those to do the things that I love. Certainly, morning is a big one for me as well. I'm a really big believer in starting your morning well and focusing on you first. You know, if you have poured into yourself first, it's much easier to pour into everyone and everything else. I had a friend who once said to me, how you spend your 5 to 9 determines how you spend your 9 to 5. And I love that. And that's sort of been my mantra. So morning is a big one for me. And I think a huge opportunity, particularly for busy people. You know, don't wake up at the same time as your kids or with just enough time to get out the door, but wake up a little earlier and pour into yourself at the beginning of the day. I'm big on taking a lunch break and actually leaving my office and doing something for me at lunch. You know, lunch isn't just about refueling your body by eating, but it's actually about refueling your soul and, you know, taking time to fully break. Absolutely. You are then so much better in the afternoon if you've done that. So I'm big on, you know, even going to a restaurant by myself and reading a book for 30, 40 minutes in the middle of the workday really helps me a lot. I'm really mindful of my time and how I spend it at home in terms of how much television am I consuming? How attached am I to my phone and some of those types of things? And instead pouring into my kids or my spouse or going out with friends and doing that type of thing. I'm also really boundaried with how I'm spending my weekends and that it isn't necessarily all going to chores or all going to tasks for my kids or whatever, but that I'm doing some things for me on the weekends.
I think that's smart. Very smart. We could all take a lesson from that. So the next book that you wrote, and I believe this one's available at Target, if I'm not mistaken, it's Stretched Too Thin, How Working Moms Can Lose the Guilt, Work Smarter, and Thrive. What was the motivation for writing the second book? And correct me if I'm wrong. Is it the second or third book?
So it's sort of like 2.5. There's a gift book version of the Fringe Hours called My Fringe Hours. So 2, 3, depending on how you categorize your books. But Stretched Too Thin really came out of me recognizing that there was a gap in the market for great resources for working women and working moms in particular. There's a lot out there for women when they're first going back to work, kind of in that baby stage and the breastfeeding stage and navigating that with at the office and that sort of thing, but not really speaking to the working mom experience, no matter how old your kids were. And so I did a survey of 2,000 working moms and asked them what their biggest pain points were. And the data that came out of that survey and the feedback from these thousands of women is what I used as the cornerstone for the book. So every chapter goes through one of these pain points, from making time for yourself to home management to being boundaried at work to making time for friendship and relationships, your spouse, all of those types of things. Every chapter deals with one of those pain points and how women can go from feeling like they're just barely hanging on, barely surviving to really thriving in those areas.
I love it. Out of curiosity, what was the number one pain point?
It was a tie, self-care and home management. Those were the two biggest struggles.
And they kind of are diametrically opposed, right? Unless you approach it the way that you do, you can always kind of let the self-care slip by to focus on house management. But, you know, at what point does it become unsustainable? Exactly.
Yeah, it was really interesting. One of the terms that I learned in my research for Stretched Too Thin is the concept of mental load. I don't know if this is something you've ever talked about on your show before.
As a pilot, of course, we understand mental load very well. But tell me more about it.
Yeah. So mental load is the largely invisible job of noticing and remembering. And it predominantly falls on women in American households. And so it's noticing, oh, we're running low on yogurt for the kids' lunches. Oh, the kids need new underwear because I'm literally listing things that have gone through my head this week. You know, oh, the bathroom light is out. We need to get light bulbs, like those types of things, that running to-do list. It is a job, and it predominantly falls on women and can create a lot of stress and a lot of burden that, because they're not articulating it or they don't have the vernacular to explain what it is, it's difficult to sometimes ask for help. And so that mental load can be a big struggle for women, particularly women who are working a lot of hours and trying to manage home and kids and a relationship with their spouse, et cetera.
I love it. And I'm reminded of a book. I don't know if you've read it. It's called The Checklist Manifesto. And it ties into being a pilot because pilots are very meticulous about and diligent about using checklists because of that mental load. That when we're tasked with so many different things, by utilizing a checklist, it takes some of that load off your shoulders so that you can work on the most important things and that you don't forget anything. Even the smartest of us, even those of us with the best memory, will forget things because we're only human. Do you utilize checklists in your life to help you manage all of that mental load?
I do. I'm a big pen to paper person. So I have a little notebook that I have with me all the time that I'm constantly making notes on of things that I need to do. I also really love Alexa. She helps me run my house as well. So
is there anything more satisfying than like scratching something off with a pen on paper?
no, I'm absolutely the kind of person who will add something to my list just so I can cross it off.
I'm the same way. And I love Post-it notes. I got them lying all over my house and my office, and I just like ripping them up. It's that little dopamine hit to the brain that's like, yeah, I did that. Now I can destroy this sheet of paper. I don't know what that says about me, but it's a similar concept. So I want to dig in a little bit more. We've talked a lot about moms and, the society's pressure on them to do this or be that. What do you think about the gender roles in our society that we place on moms and dads? And do you see those kind of eroding a little bit, or how do you feel about that?
I think there certainly are gender roles. I mean, it's going to take probably several generations, before we're seeing more equality in that. It's interesting because I've talked to so many women in my research for my books, particularly most recently Stretched Too Thin. And, I'll have women say to me, well, I don't care about the house, or I'm okay with leaving it go, but my husband isn't. There's an analogy I use in the book that we're all juggling a lot of balls, but instead of looking at those balls as all the same, like the red rubber balls that we see clowns juggling at the circus, that there's actually two types of balls we're juggling. There's rubber and glass. And rubber balls are the things that if we drop them, they'll remain the same. There's not going to be any massive impact to them. A glass ball, if you drop it, it will crack or it will break, right?
Yeah.
And we've got things mixed up. We're so often treating ourselves like rubber balls, like, oh, it's fine if I don't get sleep. Oh, it's fine if I skip my workout. Oh, it's fine if I eat that crappy food. But then we're treating our homes and we're treating our work like glass balls, right? When it's actually the inverse is what's true. And so I think a lot of it is just being vulnerable enough to have those conversations with our spouses or significant others and saying, hey, this is something that I'm struggling with. I need you to pitch in. The first point of help is to ask the people who you live with to help, right? Ask your kids or ask your spouse. And I think it can sometimes feel vulnerable or uncomfortable to do that. Or, we grew up in a home where it wasn't that way. I think about the way my mom ran our house and I think, oh, well, that's the way it needs to be for me. And it doesn't. And so some of that is just the own baggage that we bring into a relationship as well.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I've seen a lot of households of millennials, and I'm a 35-year-old millennial, and I've seen a lot of my friends' households, and it seems that there is kind of this division of labor. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard about pink jobs and blue jobs. Oh, that's a pink job. That's laundry. That's a pink job. And taking out the trash. Well, that's a blue job. Have you noticed that? And it bothers me. It bothers me because I think that it's some of those duties just need to be done, and whoever's around and has the free time needs to tackle it. Have you noticed that at all in some of your surveys that you've done? And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that I've never heard that term pink job and blue job, but I think it absolutely is something. And, I think that there probably are kind of some more natural inhibitions
maybe the
of things that
that's a pink job, right?
Right. That's totally a pink job, and honestly, I want mowing the lawn to be a blue job. I have no desire to mow the lawn, but, can mowing the lawn be a pink job? Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. And so I think that it's just recognizing that and being open to whether or not that works for you and your lifestyle. I mean, my husband makes dinner almost every single night. My husband is the one who's taking the kids to soccer practice and taking them to school. And some people would say, oh, well, then he's Mr. Mom. No, guess what? He's Mr. Dad. We're just dividing the labor.
And that's of labor. Exactly.
So,
and it works.
But it totally works. And my kids are thriving and he is happy and I'm happy. And so I think that we do just need to be okay with maybe living a little different than maybe how we were raised.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, let's talk more about, so you're an author, your husband's an author, and what did you study in school? You said you were at University of Wisconsin, correct? Madison?
Yep, right. Mm-hmm. I studied journalism with an emphasis on strategic communications.
Did you always know you wanted to write in some capacity?
No. Mm-mm.
Really?
No. I wanted to work in PR, so I thought that I would be writing press releases and pitching and working kind of more in the strategy marketing space. That was something that I've always been good at, was selling things. And so I kind of just fell into blogging in 2006. I was using it as an outlet for keeping in touch with fans that was out of state. And I was also really big in the scrapbooking world at that time. And there was a big online community of memory keepers. And so I started posting pages that I was doing and craft projects that I was working on. And then I got pregnant in 2007. And that was sort of at the start of the big mommy blogging boom, 2008.
Yeah, you were right in the heart of it.
2010. Yeah. And so my blog just really took off. And people ask me all the time, why don't you do that full time? But I really like working in an office and the community that comes with an office, and just felt like I was sort of uniquely called to be speaking to this working mom who has passion projects and does other things. And so both have kind of grown simultaneously right along with my family. But it's been
the Mom Creative is still up and running, and you're still blogging?
Yeah, I'm still blogging, still working with big brands and doing some really cool stuff. And they're certainly not posting 6-7 times a week like I used to, but I'm on there a couple times a week. So it's been fun.
Incredible how much you're able to accomplish every day. What do you aspire to do moving forward? Is it more of the same? Is it scaling these different entrepreneurial endeavors, writing more books, speaking more? What gets you excited?
I think I'm most excited about speaking more. I think the concepts of the Fringe hours and self-care and talking about these challenges that working moms face is something that's really resonating with a lot of people. So I'm loving the opportunity to go out and speak, and I'm hoping to continue to be doing more of that and scaling that speaking business, as well as I think doing online education, whether that looks like online communities or more courses. I did a course called Stretch Too Thin a few years ago that did really well. And so maybe doing more of that kind of work. I'm really enjoying taking a break from book writing. It's been a long couple of years, so I don't have a contract right now, but I can see that coming down the pike as well in a few years.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have so much to say, and it's so powerful the way you say it. I love some of these little nuggets of wisdom you've dropped on us today, and I'm going to steal a couple of those. These are too good. So your kids are 10 and 7 and 4. What are they into, and what does it look like as they move into their teenage years, do you think?
I imagine that it looks busy as they move into their teenage years. Next year will be the first year that we've got kids at 3 different schools. So that's going to be a challenge because middle school starts in 5th grade here in Nashville. So my oldest will be going to middle school. They're all soccer players.
Love it.
So that is how we spend a lot of our weeknights and weekends is on the soccer field. My oldest is doing a travel league and is pretty talented. His coach said, I would give anything to have Elias's left foot. So I don't even know what that means. I was never an athlete, but it's been really fun kind of seeing them lean into something that they're good at and passionate about. So I imagine that it'll be more time spent on the fields and more time just helping them kind of navigate the tween years and the teen years and figuring that out. Hopefully continuing to have open, honest conversations with them and being a safe place for them is really important for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of growing up in Boise, Idaho. Similar sized town to Nashville, and I grew up playing soccer. My sister grew up playing soccer, and I remember those weekends, when you're on a traveling team, and we played 4 games a weekend. Again, hats off to the parents out there that sit through that, but it's a lot. It's a big commitment.
It really is. I know. I was like, why did we sign up for this?
I love it.
It's a lot, but it's awesome.
I'm, again, just so impressed with everything you've got going. I'm not going to use the term balance, but you found a great way to manage all of these incredibly inspiring and just all the endeavors that you've got going on. So thank you for sharing those with us. If people want to follow you, obviously they can go to the Mom Creative, and you're on Instagram and Twitter as Jessica N. Turner. So everybody make sure you check that out. We'll link all of this in the show notes. Jessica, it's just, again, moms and dads blow me away. One of these days I'll join the ranks with you guys. But in the meantime, thank you for sharing your story with us.
Oh, it was my great pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
Talk soon. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
A big thank you to everyone for joining us on that episode. If you want to find out more or listen to other episodes, go to rungum.com/podcast. Also, please make sure to subscribe on iTunes or your preferred player. I'm Nick Symmonds, and you've been listening to the Run the Day podcast. Until next time.